Hello and welcome back to Asian Cinema Season 2 and Project Jackie. Yes, it's been, for us at this point in time, a couple of months since we did the last one. So, but for you it's pretty instantaneous and jumping on to the next Jackie Chan film to talk about, which is, I don't have it at hand, Armour of God.
Ooh.
Yeah, way too much glare. There we go. So, this is a classic 80s...
Those four are very memorable once you see the movie.
Yeah. It's a classic 80s Jackie Chan film, Hong Kong film. So I had high hopes for this one. I seem to remember hearing about it as a classic, was a little bit disappointed in it. And I think now what I might be thinking of is Armour of God 2, Operation Condor. Or, no, I think this one is called Operation Condor 2, even though it's the first one. But they released it later in America, so there's like this confusion with the titles.
There's always that confusion, isn't it? With games and stuff.
It's just ridiculous. But anyway, Armour of God, 1984, I think? 1986. 1986, and it kind of felt like it was Jackie Chan does James Bond and Indiana Jones. And not quite as good as either of those. Like, we have the beginning, which is kind of like almost a separate adventure, even though it's not, because he's specifically getting the pieces of this Armour of God, which is this 5 pieces of a suit of armour and a sword that is this mythical thing from, like, the Dark Ages. And so, like, the private collectors and so on, they want to get the 5 pieces of the Armour of God. I think it's something to do with summoning demons or something like that. I don't fully remember, even though we watched it a few days ago. So the opening of the film is Jackie Chan out in the middle of nowhere in Yugoslavia, I believe they filmed it, and he's trying to collect these 3 pieces from this tribe who are doing some ritual with the 3 pieces. And so that's kind of its own kind of contained action scene at the beginning, and then the movie kind of starts. So it reminded me of James Bond a little bit, kind of spy element, and then also towards the end they're in this mountain, and it felt very much like Indiana Jones to me.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was him trying to do this kind of action, adventure, spy, thriller thing.
Typical Jackie Chan humour in it.
Typical Jackie Chan humor in it, yeah. There is... Wait, was he... Yeah, he was teaming with someone. We just watched 2 of them, so I'm trying not to confuse the 2.
Yeah.
So in this film, he used to be in a pop band, and which is hilarious.
And his name is actually Jackie in the movie.
And his name is Jackie in the movie, and he's reunited with his old bandmate, and they both had like a thing for this one woman in the band, and so there's this tension between them. They haven't seen each other for a while. And she gets kidnapped from a pop concert in this very poorly edited together sequence, I think, where it's cutting between the kind of the terrorist group who are kind of kidnapping her, and then the concert itself, and then also this fashion show that seems to be linked somehow. It's a very choppily edited.
The cutting is very
I didn't like
confusing
that.
there.
Quite confusing. This is a Jackie Chan directed film, and I didn't think that was a good way of showing that sequence, and it was a little bit confusing. So his kind of ex-lover, ex-flame, or the woman he was interested in, I'm not sure if he was actually together with her, and then there's kind of the love triangle with his former bandmate, and she gets kidnapped because they know that he has access to these pieces, but they want to complete the set, and so he has to go and deliver the pieces of the Armour of God to these bad guys because they've got his ex-girlfriend. There's a lot of crisscrossing around with the plot, and he has to kind of convince this rich man to part ways with his pieces of the Armour of God to go and exchange them, and then his daughter goes along, and so on and so on.
These movies are very confusing to me when it comes to the audio, because...
The audio?
Yeah, because the only Chinese people are Jackie Chan and his friend.
Right, so...
and the girlfriend, obviously, but the rest are white.
Okay, yeah, so I should say this, in the Project A movies, there's a lot of, like, well, not a lot, but there's a few, like, British kind of, like, officers and so on, and they, you know, you can clearly see they're speaking English, and they just obviously dub it over in Mandarin or Cantonese, I think, actually, regardless, Chinese, and you just kind of accept it. But in this movie, and in the next one we're going to talk about, there's a lot of European actors. So it's, you know...
I would say 90%.
Yeah, so it does throw you when you're seeing all of these, you know, white people being dubbed over in
Chinese.
Yeah, being dubbed over. I mean, you could maybe see one white person in a Chinese movie and go, oh, maybe they learned Chinese for this film. But you know all those extras and those small supporting parts aren't going to be learning Chinese, so they're clearly just speaking either their own language, English or whatever, and they just dub it all over afterwards. But hey, That's what they do with foreign movies that get dubbed over here, but then I hate watching it dubbed. I like the original language and subtitles, so, it just throws you off a little bit, I suppose, and I had to kind of train myself not to look at their mouths, because then I'd just be thinking, are they saying it in English? Is it matching with the subtitles,
I was just watching the subtitles.
You were just watching the subtitles, okay, so there we go. I didn't love the story. It got a bit slow at times. I know that these films work best when the action is broken up, as we've previously discussed. The original Drunken Master, just so many fight scenes, one after the other. So I do like it when the action scenes get broken up, but it just wasn't that engaging overall. I found myself drifting, when it came to it was done well, there's some funny bits and stuff, but...
You actually nodded off.
Well, that's because I was tired anyway. I was
Your drifting.
bored to nodding off, but it wasn't that gripping to me. Not that a lot of these films are, but I just was a little bit disappointed in that element. Even though there's some really good locations, there is a really cool car chase with a Mitsubishi car that they were clearly promoting, who clearly sponsored the film, and the car looked like a toy car to me. It didn't look like a proper sports car, and I thought that just looks like they've made it for the movie, and I think I read they did make that specifically for the movie.
Thinking about this one now, the last one.
Nope, that one also had a Mitsubishi sponsorship apparently. Anyway, so there's a really cool. I mean, what I love about the car chases that he does in some of his movies, like, they're proper car chases. Like, there's no CGI, and they're launching cars over bridges in slow motion so you can see everything. And he'll position, like, there's a sequence in this actually where a Jeep falls down a set of steps in this kind of like European town, and it's a really small kind of almost like a town square area, I think. And there's people like right in front of this Jeep that's flipping over, and obviously you can tell that he's placed people strategically so that you really feel as an audience member the threat. Like, what would actually happen if they just suddenly did this car chase in a public area? That is what would happen. People would be like diving out of the way, and it would be very close to knocking them over. So he really makes you feel the danger of it by having people so close to the car, carnage that's happening. The final kind of fights at the end are really good. There's a group of these women who appear right at the very end, and they're wearing heels, and even that he uses, like, to the point where he runs up onto this walkway that has like a grated floor, so they can't step on it without falling over. So they play around with that, but you can tell that there's men in those scenes when they're doing the fighting, which is fine, because there's some ridiculous stuff they have to do. Like, I can't even like comprehend some of the fighting scenes in this film towards the end. There's a bit where one of the women jumps off the grating, Jackie Chan kicks her, and her feet doesn't even touch, or his feet, it must have been a stuntman, doesn't even touch the ground. And it's just like, the physics don't even look real. But you can see that it's real because there's an actual person jumping off that thing and slamming their body down on the ground. It's unbelievable. What did you think of the film, if you can even kind of summon up some thoughts?
Oh, you kind of summed it all up for me. I even had to explain something to you because you misunderstood something when they got her out of the place the first time.
Oh, there's a whole plot where they inject the girl who's been kidnapped with like a serum so that she follows their orders.
Yeah.
I didn't even...
She got also the serum with her, so they let her go. Luke didn't catch up on it.
Yeah.
It wasn't confusing, but it was confusing, But the thing is, what I liked about this was that the bad guys weren't stupid. They were very clever. They knew that they were there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They let them take it. Yeah.
And especially in an 80s movie like this, they don't know that they're there. They can blend in,
Mm-hmm.
And their plan is pretty good, And, and she looks just like the other women that they bring into that cave place. And so why would they recognize them? So just the way that they kind of play around with the fact that they know that they're there and stuff like that, I kind of like that.
Yeah,
because it makes them not come out as stupid as...
Yeah, there's a whole section where the main characters break into this place, or they sneak in, and you think they're going to get caught, and they don't. They just get away with it. It's like, oh, there we go.
That was easy.
But then...
because they let them go.
Yeah.
Ending was ridiculous. Ending shot, kind of.
Oh, and the hot air balloon.
Yeah.
when he dives off the cliff and suddenly he's thousands of feet in the air.
Yeah. It's like it's driving from a plane, which he obviously did.
He did jump from a plane, yeah, I read that. Yeah.
And it's just, the whole thing is very Tom Cruise on acid, I think.
Yeah.
But it was an entertaining movie. I
Yeah.
agree the story wasn't, it was just another one of those.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, you've seen this before,
Yeah.
but this time it's Jackie Chan being the hero and stuff like that. Other than that, it wasn't like a bad story or anything.
No.
It was understandable.
Yeah.
It was good. It wasn't like, no, hang on, why would that happen? And
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, because obviously they must have, because the bad guys saw that they were there and stuff like that. It was those little things that made me tolerate it more.
Yeah, yeah.
It being one of his best, no.
No.
It started out with the boy band thing and that kidnapping scene. I was just like, oh my god, this is going to be horrible.
You were almost comparing it to City Hunter, which is almost like, to me, sacrilege. Like, I mean,
yeah, it looked like a parody to me. And when he was on stage singing, I was just like, oh my god, this is going to be a long 1.5 hours. And then it started, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is actually enjoyable.
Yeah.
But did we watch it in one go?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
We did on this one. I will say there's a scene when they take the main woman, who isn't the one who's kidnapped, it's the woman who goes with them, who is a Spanish actress, I believe, who also appears in the next film we'll be talking about, which comes before this one chronologically, which is very confusing, but it's the way we watch them. She is back at the house that they're staying in when they're trying to pull off this thing to get all 5 pieces of the Armour of God. And so there's Jackie and his old bandmate, and they're both kind of trying to, switch it on with this Spanish woman, and so they're going to different rooms and kind of like, oh no, yeah, no, it's the other woman who's in this. Like, it's
that was
just
very Jackie Chan.
very Jackie Chan. It really good kind of physical humor, but like that was a really good scene. I liked that a lot, and that kind of lifted the film up a bit. Although I don't think we ever saw that Spanish woman again. But mainly, I just think of that fight scene with the 4 women at the end, which was just incredible. I mean, when he's really on form with his fighting scenes, he's just like unparalleled. Like, it's unbelievable. The choreography, and we've probably already droned on about that forever at this point because we've done a lot of these Project Jackie videos.
But it's not every movie that the choreography.
No, it isn't every.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. So it really does deliver towards the end with that. Lots of really cool intro. There's a scene where he's got this massive 10-foot pole and he sets it on fire and he's swinging it around and it just looks so dangerous. But he's in control of. Well, for the most part, he's in control. Oh, I didn't even get to it. Okay, so we're gonna end this kind of the discussion of the film. So I really liked it. But was a little bit disappointed because I think I'd heard it was one of the best. So I think we need to see the sequel at some point, which I think might be a little bit better. But I did love that scene at the end, fighting those women, because it was interesting to see him fight women, even though they're big, kind of muscular women who look very kind of intimidating.
He even said that he didn't try to hit them because they were women.
Right.
That he was going easy on them.
Right, but it's just a really, really, really well done fight scene. So that's Armour of God. Now in this film, Jackie Chan almost died. So I had heard that this was his most, significant injury, but I literally just read earlier today in his book, which you'll see me unboxing at the end of this Project Jackie run of videos. He talks about what happened, and you don't know this story, so I'm just going to tell the story. So it's at the beginning of the film when he has shorter hair, which looks very weird, but apparently they convinced him you need to kind of change it up and cut your hair short, for the opening scene of this film. So he did that, and he was doing a routine stunt. And I was trying to look for it in the movie, like, where's the bit where he, cuts his head open?
I think it was the air balloon.
But it's not. I don't think you can even. It probably wasn't even used. But he basically is just jumping from a tree. So he jumps from a tree, lands on the floor, and then runs off. So he said in the book, it's like a regular stunt for him, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing dangerous. They did 3 takes. The director said we got it, and then Jackie's like, do you know what? I could put more energy into it when I land and jump. Let me just try it again. So he tried it again, and the branch snapped, and he fell off the tree. He tried to grab onto another branch, that branch snapped. He hit the floor and banged his head on a rock. And his head went really hot. People were kind of, scrambling around him. Blood was gushing out of his ear. So they took him down from the mountain, stuck him in a jeep, and they were all freaking out. They're like, don't go to sleep, don't go to sleep. Took him to a hospital in Yugoslavia, and they're like, yeah, this is pretty serious. This is like a brain trauma injury. There's a bit of your skull is like broken off and is inside your head. We need to remove it. But we're not that capable to operate on this. We need like a proper brain surgeon. So they call up Hong Kong to get the producer of the film, Raymond Chow, to say he needs this like brain surgeon. He calls someone who knows the brain surgeon, says he's busy in like a conference in some other country, and they're like, we don't know what to do. And they're like, and then like the whole day passes, and they're like, this is really serious. We need to get this thing done. So Jackie's like, all right, we'll just do it then. And one of his stuntmen was like telling him exactly what needs to be done. Like, you know, the piece of brain is stuck in your head. And Jackie said in the book, if someone had said this to me calmly, I would have said, okay, let's get it fixed. But the stuntman was like crying his eyes out. And he said like the stuntman is like one of the hardest people he knows, so he knew it was really serious and was freaking out. And they said, okay, we're gonna try this. So they take him into the operating room, and then he wakes up. And apparently the brain surgeon from Yugoslavia just happened to be in the country at the time and turned up just before they put him into the surgery room, and he did the surgery. It was like this chance, almost like a miracle.
And he never cut his hair again.
And he never cut his hair. Well, I think he did, but you know yeah, but you know,
not that short though.
So he wakes up and they're like, okay, we've done the surgery, and he's like, I want to eat. And they're like, this is unprecedented. Like usually people who go through this kind of surgery, they never have an appetite. And so he kind of miraculously recovered. But there was a piece, his skull had collapsed around his ear, and there was a bit of it inside they needed to remove. And now he doesn't have skull in that part of his head. It's just a soft part of his head where there's no skull. Kind of.
They couldn't put like something like
I don't know.
Iron in.
I've no idea. I mean, I'm not sure if it was too dangerous or what, but it was it was essentially just a hole in his head that was never really filled. I don't know. I'm not. But
okay,
again,
so he's written this in the book,
yeah.
And if somebody doesn't like him, all they have to do is just do this. Poke him in that side of the head.
Perhaps, yeah.
And kill him.
Well, I'm not sure. Again, it could be an exaggeration. There could be something.
Doing all of these stunts, he must have fixed it somehow.
I don't know, but there was something in the book about how they said they'd have to put something in there and then remove it after a few years. But he said that still to this day, there's just a kind of soft, kind of squidgy part of my head where there's no skull. And I'm assuming it's I mean, you imagine like it's a big hole, but I'm imagining it's fairly small. But regardless,
yeah, but one kick to that side of the head, what happens?
Maybe, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, but
maybe it has to be a little poke.
He was so adamant that he went back to filming after a few weeks, I think, and he just said like, we won't film that side of my face. But it just quickly became obvious that it just wasn't going to work, so they just took like a year break before they continued the movie. But yeah, I mean, it's just, and it's like it's from you'd see all these stunts where he falls off buildings and things like that. And it's just something simple, like falling out of a tree, where he thought it was nothing, and it almost killed him. So, yeah, pretty incredible. And you do see in the outtakes at the end, him on the floor with the blood. There is a shot of that, but regardless. Overall, I feel weird transitioning from that story of him almost dying to saying, yeah, the film wasn't that good. But, it was very good. I just was disappointed because I was expecting it to be like Police Story good or Project A good. But anyway, that is our thoughts on Armour of God. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans and calling into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.